The church was full when Claire Bennett realized the man she was supposed to marry was not coming. Every pew was crowded. Every phone was ready. Every whisper landed against her skin like a tiny blade. Outside, rain slid down the stained glass windows of St. Aurelius Cathedral, blurring the city lights of Boston into streaks of gold and silver. Inside, hundreds of candles flickered beneath arches high enough to make a woman feel small, even on the happiest day of her life. Claire stood at the altar in a white satin dress that had taken 8 months of payments and 3 rounds of alterations to fit her body without apology. Curvy, soft, ordinary, the kind of woman people complimented carefully. The kind of woman relatives called beautiful only after saying she had such a sweet face. Her bouquet trembled in her hands. White roses, baby's breath, a pale blue ribbon wrapped around the stems. The music had already played twice. The priest had stopped pretending not to notice. And somewhere in the 3rd row, Claire's mother was crying into a folded tissue. Not from joy, but from shame. Then Claire's phone buzzed. Her maid of honor, Emily, picked it up from the small table beside the altar, glanced at the screen, and went so pale the flowers in her hands looked colorful by comparison. Claire. She whispered. Claire already knew. Some part of her had known from the moment the groom's side of the church started checking their watches. She took the phone. The message was from Julian. 6 words. I can't marry someone like you. The cathedral went silent in a way silence should never go. It was not empty. It was watching. Claire's breath disappeared. Her ribs felt too tight. For one terrible second, she saw herself the way she feared everyone else saw her. Too much, not enough, foolish for believing a man like Julian Cross had ever truly chosen her. Someone gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Then the first phone lifted. A guest in the middle rows was filming. Another followed. Claire stood there in her perfect white dress while the worst moment of her life became content for strangers. Her eyes burned, her throat closed. She wanted to collapse, to scream, to rip the veil from her hair and run into the rain until the city swallowed her whole. Instead, she laughed. It came out broken, soft at first, then sharper. Not because anything was funny, because if she started crying in front of these people, she was afraid she would never stop. The laugh echoed through the cathedral like cracked glass. In the back row, where shadows gathered beneath the choir balcony, Adrian Valenti looked up. He had not come for the wedding. He had come because the man sitting 2 seats away from him owed him $6 million, and had chosen a crowded church to whisper a desperate offer under the cover of organ music. Adrian wore a black suit without a tie, his expression calm enough to terrify men who knew better than to mistake stillness for mercy. He was 38, powerful, and feared in every private room from Boston Harbor to New York's black marble clubs. People called him the Saint of Ashes because the enemies who betrayed him often lost everything before they lost their lives. He had no interest in strangers' weddings, no interest in romance, no interest in women who cried at altars. But when Claire Bennett laughed through her own public destruction, Adrian forgot the man beside him. He forgot the debt. He forgot the rain, the cathedral, the armed driver waiting outside. He watched her, not because she was perfect, because she refused to break where everyone could enjoy it. Claire lowered the phone. Her face had gone still, but her eyes were wet. She looked out at the crowd, at the pity, at the judgment, at the people recording her humiliation as if it belonged to them. Then she lifted her chin. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice shaking just enough to hurt. Apparently, the groom had other plans. A few people looked away. Most did not. Claire walked down the aisle alone, not slowly, not dramatically, just with the careful dignity of someone holding herself together with both hands. As she passed the last pew, Adrian saw her fingers tighten around the bouquet until one rose snapped. For one brief moment, she looked toward the back row. Their eyes met. Claire saw a man in black, handsome in a cold and dangerous way, sitting where no family member should have been. He did not look sorry for her. He did not look amused. He looked as if he had seen something valuable that everyone else had missed. The look unsettled her. Then she was gone. The cathedral doors opened. Rain rushed in, and Claire Bennett disappeared into the storm. Adrian did not move for several seconds. The debtor beside him swallowed. Mr. Valenti. About our arrangement, Adrian's gaze remained on the doors. Who was the groom? The man blinked. What? The groom, Adrian said calmly, his name. Julian Cross, the man answered, confused. Real estate. Investments. Some charity circles. Adrian finally turned his head. His eyes were dark, unreadable, and empty of warmth. Find out why he ran 3 days later. Claire sold her wedding dress in a consignment shop that smelled faintly of lavender and old heartbreak. The shop sat on a narrow street near Beacon Hill, tucked between an antique bookstore and a jewelry repair store. Outside, rainwater dripped from a green awning. Inside, dresses hung in plastic sleeves like ghosts of better decisions. Claire stood behind a velvet curtain while the owner examined the gown. There are some small tears near the hem. The woman said gently. Claire looked down. She did not remember tearing it. Maybe it happened when she climbed into the cab alone. Maybe when she dragged it up the stairs to her apartment. Maybe when she sat on the bathroom floor, still wearing it until dawn. That's fine, Claire said. Just give me whatever you can. The woman hesitated. Are you sure? Claire smiled. Because she had become very good at smiling when people wanted her to make their discomfort easier. I need rent more than I need memories. The bell over the shop door rang. Claire did not look up. She was too busy trying not to feel the empty place on her finger where a ring had been. Then the shop went still. Not quiet, still, like the air itself had noticed someone dangerous had entered. Claire turned. The man from the back row of the church stood near the door, rain darkening the shoulders of his black coat. He looked wrong among the lace and silk. Too controlled, too sharp, too much like violence that had learned manners. Claire's stomach tightened. She said before she could stop herself. His gaze moved from her face to the wedding dress draped over the counter, then back to her. Claire Bennett. Her body stiffened. How do you know my name? Everyone in that church knew your name by the end. Pain flashed across her face before she hid it. Adrian noticed. He noticed everything. I didn't mean it as an insult, he said. That's comforting, Claire replied. Usually men only insult me when they're retrying. The corner of his mouth moved slightly. Not quite a smile. The shop owner sensed something and quietly disappeared into the back. Claire folded her arms over her chest, suddenly aware that she was wearing jeans, an old cream sweater, and no makeup. Her hair was tied messily at the back of her neck. She looked like a woman who had slept badly for 3 nights and eaten nothing but coffee and humiliation. Adrian looked like money, danger, and the kind of man who never had to wonder whether he was wanted. What do you want? Claire asked. A conversation. About what? The man who left you. Her face hardened. I'm not discussing Julian with a stranger. Good, Adrian said. You shouldn't discuss him with anyone you don't trust. I don't trust you. I know, the answer surprised her. Most men tried to charm distrust away. Adrian seemed to accept it like a fact. Claire looked toward the door. Then we were done. She moved past him. He did not block her. That mattered. Though she wished it did not. As she reached for the handle, he spoke. He hurt you publicly because he wanted the world to believe you were the embarrassment. Claire froze. Adrian's voice stayed calm. But men like Julian Cross don't run from women like you because they're ashamed of you. They run because they are afraid of what you'll discover. Claire turned slowly. What do you know? Not enough yet. Yet. Adrian took a card from inside his coat and placed it on the counter between them. No company name. No title. Just a phone number embossed in black. If he contacts you, call me. Claire almost laughed again. But this one had no humor in it. And why would I do that? Because when men like Julian disappear before a wedding, they usually leave a mess behind. And women like you are often left standing in the wreckage. Women like you. Claire flinched. Adrian saw it immediately. His eyes sharpened not with irritation but with regret. I meant strong women, he said quietly. Not foolish ones. Claire stared at him. For one dangerous second. She wanted to believe him. Then she remembered the church, the message, the phones, the laughter she had forced from her own broken chest. I don't need saving, she said. No, Adrian replied. You need the truth. She left the card on the counter and walked out into the rain. But halfway down the street, she realized she was still thinking about the way he had looked at her. Not with pity. Not with hunger. with recognition, and somehow that frightened her more than either. By the end of the week, Claire's humiliation had gone viral. Not celebrity viral, not headline viral. Worse, local viral, the kind of cruel, intimate exposure that followed a woman to the grocery store, the subway platform, the office elevator. People had edited the clip of her laughing at the altar and added captions. When your man sees the bride without the filter. She really thought he was coming. That laugh when reality hits. Claire deleted every app from her phone, and still could not escape it. At the nonprofit, where she worked organizing housing support for women leaving abusive relationships, co-workers avoided mentioning it. That almost made it worse. Sympathy hung over the break room like smoke. Her boss, Marlene, called her into the office on Friday afternoon. "You know we love you here," Marlene began. Claire closed her eyes. Nothing good ever came after that sentence. We had done us asking questions. With the video circulating, and Julian's name attached to several of our sponsors, you refiring me. No, Marlene said quickly, a temporary leave, paid for 2 weeks. Claire gave a small, hollow laugh. There it was again. The sound her body made when pain had nowhere else to go. "I got abandoned at the altar," Claire said, "and now I'm bad for Dunner Optics." Marlene looked ashamed. Claire stood before she could cry. "Keep the 2 weeks. I'll need my desk cleared by Monday." That evening she walked home through rain so cold it numbed her hands. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor of a brick building with bad heating and a front door that never locked properly. A black SUV was parked across the street. Claire noticed it because after a public humiliation, a woman noticed every pair of eyes. The windows were tinted. The engine was running, her pulse quickened. She climbed the stairs faster than usual, locked her apartment door, and stood with her back against it, listening. Nothing, only rain against glass. She told herself she was being paranoid. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, she thought of Adrian's card. She had left it at the shop. She answered anyway. Julian's voice slipped through the line like a hand around her throat. Claire. All the air left her. She had imagined this moment for days. Imagined screaming, begging, demanding answers. But hearing his voice made her feel suddenly small again. "What do you want?" she whispered. "I made a mistake." Her laugh came out sharp. "You texted me at the altar." I panicked. "You said you couldn't marry someone like me." Silence. Then Julian sighed, as if her pain was an inconvenience. "I was under pressure. From who? That's not important. It became important when you ruined my life." His voice dropped. "Listen to me carefully. If anyone asks about the charity accounts, you never saw anything. You don't know anything. You never looked at my laptop." Claire frowned. "What accounts?" "Don't play innocent. I'm not playing anything. I don't know what you were talking about." Another pause. This one colder. "Then keep it that way." The call ended. Claire stood in the dim light of her kitchen, phone in hand, heart hammering. Then someone knocked on her apartment door. Not loud, not aggressive. 2 calm knocks. Claire did not move. The knock came again. She picked up a kitchen knife with shaking fingers and looked through the peephole. Adrian Valenti stood in the hallway. The knife lowered an inch, then came back up because she remembered he was still a stranger. She opened the door only as far as the chain allowed. "How did you find me?" "Your front lock is broken," he said. "That doesn't answer my question." "No," he said. "It answers the one you should be asking." Claire stared at him through the gap. Rain clung to his dark hair, his coat was wet. Behind him, the hallway lights flickered. "You followed me." "I had someone watch the street after I learned Julian made contact." Her stomach twisted. "That is not comforting." "It wasn't meant to be." "Then what was it meant to be?" "Effective." Claire almost shut the door. Adrian placed nothing in the way. He did not force it. He simply stood there, letting her decide. That made her angrier. "Men like you always think protection is permission," she said. His face changed, barely. "But enough. You rewrite." She blinked. Adrian continued. "I should have asked." The apology unsettled her more than the surveillance. "Who are you?" Claire whispered. "You already know enough to be afraid." "I'm afraid of many things right now." His gaze dropped to the knife in her hand, then to her face. "Good," he said softly. "Fear can keep you alive. Just don't waste it on the wrong man." A sound came from the stairwell below. A creak, a whisper. Adrian's eyes shifted. Everything about him changed without movement. The man in the hallway became something colder. Sharper, older than Mercy, he stepped closer to the door. "Claire," he said, "close the chain." "What now?" She did. He reached inside his coat. Her breath caught when she saw the gun. Before she could scream, 3 men rushed up the stairs. The hallway exploded into violence. Adrian moved like he had been born in the dark. One man hit the wall before Claire understood what had happened. Another grabbed Adrian's arm. And Adrian broke something with a sound Claire would hear in nightmares. The third pointed a gun toward the apartment. Toward her. Adrian fired once. The man dropped. Claire stumbled backward, one hand over her mouth. The apartment smelled of rain, metal, and terror. Adrian turned back to her. There was blood on his knuckles. Not all of it his. Claire's knife clattered to the floor. He looked at the broken fear in her face and did not come closer. "Pack a bag," he said. Her voice shook. "You just shot someone outside my apartment." "Yes. You expect me to go with you?" "No," Adrian said. "I expect you to survive the night. Whether you hate me afterward is your choice." Outside, tires screeched. The black SUV door opened below. Claire looked past him at the bodies in the hall, at the blood, at the gun in his hand, at the man who had watched her laugh at the altar, and now stood between her and death, as if that was where he belonged. "Why?" she whispered. For the first time, Adrian did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quiet. "Because Julian ran from more than a wedding." The safe house was not a house. It was a mansion on the edge of the Atlantic, hidden beyond iron gates and pine trees bent by coastal wind. Black SUVs moved like shadows across the gravel drive. Armed men stood beneath the rain as if weather did not apply to them. Claire sat in the back seat, wrapped in Adrian's coat, watching luxury and danger blur through the window. Her body had not stopped shaking. She hated that he noticed. When the SUV stopped, Adrian opened her door himself. Claire stepped out and nearly slipped on wet stone. His hand caught her elbow, firm, warm, immediate. The touch lasted less than a second before he released her, as if he had reminded himself she had not given permission to be held. That single restraint made something in Claire's chest ache. She hated that too. Inside, the mansion smelled of cedar, leather, and old money. A grand staircase curved beneath a chandelier made of black crystal. Fire burned in a marble hearth, throwing light across paintings of men who looked as ruthless as Adrian. A woman in her 60s waited in the foyer. "Mr. Valenti," she said. "Elise," he replied, "this is Claire Bennett. She needs dry clothes, food, and a room with no exterior access." Claire bristled. "I'm standing right here." Adrian turned to her. "Yes, so don't arrange me like furniture." One of the armed men nearby looked startled. Elise's mouth twitched as if she were hiding a smile. Adrian studied Claire for a long second, then he said, "My mistake." Again that calm admission. No defensiveness. No wounded male pride. It was infuriatingly hard to fight. Claire looked away first. Elise led her upstairs to a room larger than her entire apartment. The bed was dressed in white linen. The windows faced the black ocean. In the bathroom, towels were warm, the mirror spotless. And the shower had 6 settings Claire was too exhausted to understand. When she came back out wearing a soft gray sweater and black lounge pants, Adrian was standing by the fireplace. He had removed his coat. Blood darkened the cuff of his white shirt. Claire stopped. "You re-hurt?" "It's nothing. That's what men say right before infection." His eyes lifted. For 1 second. The violence between them softened into something almost ordinary. "There's a first aid kit in the cabinet," he said. Claire gave him a flat look. "You have a mansion full of armed men and no doctor." "I have several doctors." "Then call one. They ask questions. And I done tea. You ask better ones." She should have walked away. Instead, she found the first aid kit and made him sit in a leather chair near the fire. Adrian obeyed without comment. Claire rolled up his sleeve. There was a deep cut along his forearm, probably from a knife. Blood had dried against his skin. His hands were strong, scarred, elegant in a way that felt unfair. She cleaned the wound with more force than necessary. He did not flinch. "Does anything hurt you?" she muttered. "Yes." The answer was too quiet. Claire looked up. Adrian was watching her face, not his arm. The firelight caught the hard lines of him, the controlled mouth, the dark eyes that seemed to see too much. For a moment, the room narrowed to the space between them. Claire felt his knee near hers, his breath, his silence. The strange intimacy of tending to a dangerous man who had killed for her less than an hour ago. Her fingers slowed. Adrian noticed. His gaze dropped to her hand, then rose again. He could have touched her. She saw the thought pass through him. Then he closed his hand into a fist against his own thigh and looked away. Claire finished bandaging him. "Why were those men coming for me?" she asked. Adrian stood, putting distance between them as if he needed it too. "Julian stole money from dangerous people. You, not only me." Claire's stomach turned. "How much? Enough to start a war. And what does that have to do with me?" Adrian walked to the window. Rain hammered against the glass beyond him. "Julian used your non-profit as a laundering channel. Charity accounts, donor funds, housing grants. He moved money through names no one would question." Claire felt sick. "No. Yes. I would have noticed. Maybe that's why he ran." The word struck harder than shouting. Claire sank onto the edge of the bed. Julian had not left because she was unlovable. Not only because of that. He had left because she might have found something. Because humiliating her made her look unstable, desperate, easy to dismiss. The realization did not heal the wound. It changed its shape. "He made me the joke," she whispered, "so no one would believe me." Adrian's expression went deadly calm. "Yes." Claire wrapped her arms around herself. The room felt too large. Her voice came out small despite her effort. "Did you know before the wedding?" "No." "Did you know him?" "Not personally." "But you knew of him?" "Yes, because you were a criminal." Adrian did not deny it. The silence was answer enough. Claire stood, anger rising because fear needed somewhere to go. "So what now? I stay here while you and your men decide what happens to my life?" "No," Adrian said. "You stay here until I know who else wants you dead." "That sounds like the same thing with better furniture." His mouth tightened. Claire stepped closer, though everything in her body warned her not to. "I am not your responsibility." Adrian's eyes darkened. "No," he said. "You are not." "Then stop acting like I belong to you." The room went silent. Something dangerous moved through his expression. Not anger exactly. Possession, restrained so hard it looked like pain. "You done tea," he said. Claire held his gaze. "Good." His voice dropped. "But if another man points a gun at you, I will remove him from this world before he finishes breathing." The words should have horrified her. They did. But beneath the horror was something more complicated. Because Julian had abandoned her with 6 words. Adrian spoke like a man who would fight death itself before letting it touch her. Claire looked away first. "That doesn't make you good." "No," Adrian said. "It makes me useful." She should not have dreamed that night. But she dreamed of the church, the guests, the phones, Julian's message glowing on the screen. Then the aisle turned into a dark road slick with rain, and a black SUV waited at the end. Adrian stood beside it, blood on his hands, watching her as if she were both a question and an answer. Claire woke before dawn. The mansion was quiet. She walked downstairs barefoot, wrapped in the borrowed sweater, and found Adrian in the kitchen. Not a chef, not a servant, Adrian himself. He stood by the counter, sleeves rolled, pouring coffee into 2 black mugs. Claire stopped in the doorway. He looked up. "I didn't think Mafia bosses made coffee." "I done tea make coffee for most people." The line landed too softly, too close. Claire crossed her arms. "Done tea flirt with me. I wasn't tea you were." Then I was doing it badly. Against her will, a laugh almost escaped. She swallowed it. Adrian slid 1 mug across the counter, then stepped away from it so she could take it without coming near him. She noticed. "Again, you re very careful," she said, "with you." Her fingers tightened around the mug. "That sounds like another line." "It isn't tea." "You don't know me." "No." "Then why do you look at me like that?" For once Adrian seemed caught. Only for a second. But Claire saw it. He looked toward the rain-dark windows. "In that church," he said, "everyone watched you suffer. Some pitied you. Some enjoyed it. You laughed so they couldn't own your pain." Claire's throat tightened. "I was falling apart." "Yes," he said, "and still you stood." No one had said that to her. Not her mother. Not Emily. Not the coworkers who sent careful texts full of hearts and soft words. They had all seen the humiliation. Adrian had seen the survival. Claire looked down at the coffee. "You re dangerous," she whispered. "Yes. You scare me." "I know, and I don't understand why that's not enough to make me want you gone." Adrian said nothing. That silence was more intimate than any answer. Then Elise entered the kitchen with a tablet and a grave expression. She said, "The video has changed." Adrian took the tablet. Claire watched his face close. "What video?" Elise hesitated. Adrian turned the screen toward Claire. It was the wedding clip. Her wedding clip. But edited. Now it looked as if Claire had slapped Julian before the ceremony. As if security had escorted him away. As if she had screamed and threatened him. Claire stared. "That never happened." "No," Adrian said. The caption beneath the video read, "Abandoned bride accused of violent breakdown before groom disappeared." Claire felt the room tilt. "They remaking me look crazy." Adrian's voice was ice. "They remaking you look dangerous enough to discredit." "Why?" "Because Julian is missing." Claire looked at him. "What do you mean missing?" Adrian did not blink. "I mean no one has seen him since he called you." Fear crawled up her spine. "You think they'll blame me?" "I think that was always the plan." By noon, Claire Bennett was a suspect in a disappearance she did not cause. By evening, her face was on local news. By midnight, Adrian Valenti had moved her from the mansion to a safe house beneath an old hotel he owned near Boston Harbor. The room had no windows. The walls were concrete behind silk wallpaper. The door locked from the inside. But 3 men guarded the hall. Claire hated it. She hated the fear, the confinement, the way Adrian's world wrapped around her like a velvet cage. Most of all, she hated that part of her felt safer in the cage than she had felt free. Adrian visited once that night. Only once. He brought her phone, wiped clean of tracking software. "Your mother called 17 times, he said. Claire took it. "She cares more when people are watching." Adrian's gaze softened in a way so slight most people would have missed it. Claire did not. "My mother spent the reception apologizing to Julian's family," she said. "As if I had failed to be abandoned politely." Adrian's jaw tightened. Claire looked at him. "Don't what? Look like you want to punish everyone who hurt my feelings." "I don't want to punish everyone." She gave him a skeptical look. His eyes held hers. "Only the ones who enjoyed it." The air changed. Claire's heart beat harder. Adrian stood near the door, far enough away to be respectful. Close enough to make the room feel smaller. "You should sleep," he said. "I can tea." "No. Can you?" "Rarely." The answer slipped out before he could hide it. Claire studied him. For the first time, she wondered what kind of life shaped a man into someone who expected betrayal more naturally than kindness. "Why were you really at the church?" she asked. "A negotiation." "With who?" "A man who thought God would make him safer." "Did it?" "No." Claire looked down. "Did you hurt him?" "Not in the church." The honesty should have repelled her. Instead, it grounded her. Adrian did not pretend to be clean. Julian had smiled like sunshine while poisoning every part of her life. "I don't know what to do with you," she admitted. Adrian's voice lowered. "You don't have to do anything with me." "That's not true. You keep appearing. You can tell me to leave." "You want I will." Claire looked up. Adrian held her gaze steadily. "If you tell me to stay away from your room, I will stay away. If you tell me not to touch you, I want tea. If you tell me you hate me, I'll believe you. But if someone comes for you, Claire, I will not ask permission to stop them." Her name in his mouth felt like a match struck in darkness. She should have told him to leave. Instead, she asked, "And if I ask you to stay outside the door?" Something moved in his eyes, not victory, relief. "Then I stay outside the door." That night, Claire slept for 5 hours because Adrian Valenti sat in a chair in the hallway with a gun across his lap and did not move until dawn. The next days became a strange, dangerous rhythm. Claire stayed hidden while Adrian's people untangled Julian's lies. Money had moved through charity accounts. Documents had been forged using Claire's login. 3 shell companies tied back to a rival family called the Kovacs Syndicate, and Julian Cross, the charming groom who had once kissed Claire's forehead and told her she was the safest place in his life, had been working as a courier between worlds he had no right entering. Claire learned all this in pieces. Adrian never overwhelmed her with information. He brought truth like medicine. Bitter, measured, necessary. But he also brought other things. Coffee in the morning. A book from the hotel library when she mentioned she used to read to calm down. A pair of sneakers because she had left her apartment in heels. A lemon tart from a bakery she had once told Emily she loved. Though she had no idea how Adrian knew. When she confronted him, he said. Elise asked your friend. You questioned Emily, I asked politely. You don't do anything politely. I did for you. Claire stared at him. Then she looked away before he could see how badly that sentence affected her. He was not soft, never soft. He still took calls in a voice that made grown men sound afraid through the speaker. He still disappeared at night, and returned with bruised knuckles. He still carried the atmosphere of a locked room. A loaded gun, a final warning. But with Claire he practiced restraint like a discipline. He did not touch unless necessary. Did not crowd unless danger demanded it. Did not call her beautiful like a man trying to win points. The first time he did say something close, it was in the hotel's abandoned ballroom. Claire had wandered there after midnight. Unable to sleep, drawn by the soft ruin of it. The ballroom overlooked the harbor. Moonlight touched the dusty floor. Chandeliers hung dark above them like frozen rain. Adrian found her standing in the center of the room. You shouldn't be alone, he said. She turned. I am in a fortress full of men with guns. That doesn't mean you're safe from yourself. Claire gave a tired smile that was almost poetic. He walked in slowly, hands visible. As if she were a wild thing he did not want to startle. She looked around the ballroom. This hotel used to host weddings. Yes, funny. No, Adrian said. Cruel. Claire wrapped her arms around herself. I keep thinking about the dress, she said. How stupid I looked. All that white, all that hope. Adrian's expression hardened. You did not look stupid. You don't have to say that, I know. Then why say it? Because it's true. Claire turned away, emotion rising too fast. You don't understand what it's like, she said. To walk into a room and feel people deciding whether you're worthy before you even speak. To have men date you because you're nice, safe, grateful. To wonder if someone proposed because he loved you or because he thought you'd never leave. Adrian was silent. Claire laughed softly. There it is. Too much. No. She looked at him. Adrian stood beneath the dead chandelier, his face half in shadow. You think your softness makes you easy to wound, he said. It doesn't. It means you survived without becoming cruel. Claire's eyes filled before she could stop them. Adrian saw and took one step forward, then stopped. That restraint again, the almost touch, the choice not to take what she had not offered. Claire hated how much she wanted him to close the distance. So she did it first. One step, then another. Not into his arms, not yet, just close enough to feel the heat of him. Adrian looked down at her as if every violent instinct in him had gone still. Claire, he warned softly. What? If you come closer because you're afraid, I'm always afraid lately, that isn't an answer. She swallowed. I don't know why I came closer. His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. The air turned fragile, dangerous, alive, then gunfire shattered the windows. Adrian moved before the sound finished. He grabbed Claire and pulled her down behind a marble column, as bullets tore through the ballroom, exploding glass across the floor like silver rain. Claire screamed. Adrian covered her body with his. His weight was heavy, protective, absolute. Men shouted in the hall. Black-clad attackers moved beyond the shattered windows. Adrian fired back over the column, calm as death. Claire pressed her face against his chest, trembling. His heart was steady. That terrified her almost as much as the bullets. Stay down, he said. One attacker climbed through the broken window. Adrian shot him twice. Another raised a rifle toward Claire. Adrian's face changed. It was not anger. It was something worse. A line had been crossed inside him. He rose into gunfire like a man who had no interest in surviving if she did not. The ballroom became chaos, muzzle flashes, broken chandeliers, men falling. Claire crawled behind the overturned piano. Hands cut by glass, breath ragged. Then she saw Julian, across the ballroom, alive, dressed in black. Holding a gun, their eyes met. He smiled, not ashamed, not sorry, triumphant. Claire, he shouted over the gunfire. You should have stayed pathetic. It suited you better. The words struck deep. Adrian heard them. He turned slowly. Even in the chaos, something about his stillness made the room feel colder. Julian's smile faltered. Adrian stepped toward him. Run, Adrian said. Julian fired. Adrian took the bullet in his side and kept walking. Claire screamed his name. Adrian did not stop. Julian backed toward the broken window, suddenly pale. But before Adrian could reach him, smoke filled the ballroom. The fire alarms roared. More men stormed in. Julian disappeared into the storm beyond the terrace. Adrian staggered. Claire ran to him. This time, when she grabbed him, he let her. Blood spread beneath his ribs. "Why didn't you move?" she cried. His hand covered hers against the wound. His voice was rough. "He was aiming behind me." Claire looked back. Behind where Adrian had stood was the piano. Where she had been hiding, the world narrowed. "You took it for me." Adrian's eyes locked on hers. "Yes." Something inside Claire broke open. Not love, not yet. Something more frightening, trust. Adrian collapsed before she could say his name again. The hospital Adrian owned was hidden inside a private surgical center outside the city. The kind of place where politicians recovered from scandals and criminals recovered from bullets. Claire sat beside his bed for 16 hours. No one asked her to. Elise tried. Twice, Claire refused to leave. Adrian lay unconscious beneath white sheets, his face pale in the low blue light of the monitors. Without his coat, his gun, his violent stillness, he looked younger, not softer. Never that, but human, a man who could bleed, a man who could die. That knowledge made Claire furious. When he finally opened his eyes, she was standing at the window. "You were angry," he said, voice hoarse. Claire turned. Relief hit so hard she almost cried. Instead, she walked to the bed and slapped his arm. Not hard, but enough. Adrian blinked. Elise, standing near the door, wisely left. "You got shot," Claire said. "I noticed. You walked toward him while bleeding. He insulted you." Claire stared at him. "You got shot because Julian hurt my feelings. He aimed at you first. And you decided dying was the best solution. I didn't. He die. That is not an argument." For the first time, Adrian almost smiled. Claire pointed at him. "Don't you dare look amused." "I wouldn't he dare. You are impossible. Yes, you are violent. Yes, you are arrogant. Often you are." Her voice cracked. Adrian's expression changed immediately. Claire gripped the bed rail. "You scared me." The words hung between them. Adrian's hand moved slightly toward hers, then stopped. Claire saw it. This time, she placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers slowly, as if the permission cost him something, or saved him. "I don't know how to do this," Claire whispered. "Neither do I. You look like you know how to do everything." "I know how to win wars," Adrian said. "I don't know how to deserve you." Claire's breath caught. There it was. Not charm, not possession. A confession stripped of elegance. "You don't even know if I want this," she said. His thumb moved once across her knuckles. "I know. I'm scared of your world. You should be. I'm scared of you." His face closed, but he did not let go. "I know." Claire looked at their joined hands. "But I'm also scared of how safe I feel when you re-near me." Adrian's eyes darkened with something like pain. "Claire," she shook her head. "No, don't make it easier. Don't say something perfect. I'm not ready to forgive the universe. Just because you showed up with expensive coffee and a gun." "I wasn't going to." "What were you going to say?" Adrian held her gaze. "That I can wait." Her heart twisted. "For how long?" His answer was immediate. "As long as it takes." Julian sent the next message 2 days later. Not to Claire's phone, to every major local news outlet. A video. In it, Julian stood in what looked like an abandoned church. Bruised but smiling. He claimed Claire had known everything. The stolen charity money. The laundering. The Mafia ties. He claimed she had seduced Adrian Valenti before the wedding. That she had staged the abandonment. That she had used public sympathy to hide criminal activity. Then he said the line that turned Claire cold. "If Claire wants the truth to come out, she knows where to meet me. Midnight. St. Aurelius, where it all began." Adrian watched the video once. Then he turned it off. "No." Claire stood across from him in the hospital suit. "You don't even know what I was going to say." "You were going to say you will go." "I have to." "No, my name is being destroyed." "I can fix that." "With what? More violence, if necessary." Claire stepped closer. "That is exactly why I have to go. Because every time something happens to me, you turn the whole world into a battlefield." Adrian's face hardened. "It is a battlefield. It wasn't mine until Julian dragged me into it. And now you think walking into a trap will get you out. I think hiding behind you forever will destroy me in a different way." The words landed. Adrian looked away. Claire softened, though she tried not to. "I spent my whole life believing I should be grateful for whatever love I could get," she said. "Julian used that. He picked me because he thought I'd be too insecure to question him, too desperate to leave, too embarrassed to fight back. Adrian's jaw flexed. Claire continued, if I let you fight every battle for me, then he still wins. I won't risk you. You don't own the risk. His eyes returned to hers. There it was again. That dark possessive thing he fought so hard to cage. No, he said quietly. I need to stand in that church and face him. Adrian's voice dropped. And if he touches you, Claire's pulse jumped. Then you can become terrifying. A pause, then Adrian said, I'm already terrifying. Despite everything, Claire almost smiled. Yes, she whispered. But you're relearning restraint. Adrian stared at her as if she had placed a hand directly on the most wounded part of him. At midnight, Claire walked back into St. Aurelius Cathedral. This time, she did not wear white. She wore a dark green dress Elise had found for her, simple and elegant, with long sleeves and a neckline that made Claire nervous until she saw herself in the mirror and realized she looked not small, not foolish, not abandoned. She looked like a woman returning to the scene of her humiliation with fire in her chest. Rain battered the stained glass. Candles burned along the aisle. The church was empty except for Julian standing at the altar, and Adrian in the shadows behind Claire. Not beside her, not leading her, behind her, where he could protect without taking her place. Julian smiled when he saw her. There she is, he said. The tragic bride. Claire stopped halfway down the aisle. No, she said. The witness, his smile faltered. Adrian remained still. Julian's gaze flicked to him. Valenti, still collecting broken things. Claire felt Adrian's rage like a change in air pressure. But he did not move. Claire lifted her chin. You used my login to move the money. Julian laughed. You can prove that. No, Claire said. But you just did. From the side chapel, Elise stepped out holding a phone. A live feed. Julian's expression changed. Claire's heart pounded. You always thought I was too stupid to notice, she said. Too grateful, too insecure, too easy to shame into silence. Julian's face twisted. You were easy. He snapped. Do you know how simple it was? Smile at the sad curvy girl. Tell her she is beautiful. Let her think she finally got picked. The words hit. They still hurt. But this time, Claire did not laugh. She did not break. She stood there and let the pain pass through her without becoming it. Behind her, Adrian moved. Just one step. Claire lifted her hand slightly. Stop. Adrian stopped. Julian noticed and something like fear entered his eyes. Not because Adrian obeyed, because Claire had the power to make him obey. You don't get to define me anymore, Claire said. Julian sneered, and he does. No, Claire said. That's the difference. The cathedral doors burst open. Armed men stormed in from both sides, Kovac soldiers. Julian had not come alone. Gunfire erupted. Adrian reached Claire before the first bullet struck the pew beside her. He pulled her behind the stone pulpit as the cathedral exploded into violence for the second time in her life. But this time Claire did not freeze. She grabbed the fallen phone Elise had dropped and crawled toward the confessional as bullets tore through candles and shattered saints made of glass. Adrian fought like a storm in a black suit, every movement controlled, every shot exact. But Claire saw what others did not. He kept looking for her. Every few seconds his eyes found her. Fear of losing her had become the one thing in the room more powerful than his rage. Julian grabbed Claire near the confessional. His hand clamped around her wrist. There you are, he hissed. Claire twisted, but he pulled her against him. Pressing a knife beneath her ribs, Adrian turned. The entire cathedral seemed to stop. Julian smiled over Claire's shoulder. Put the gun down, Valenti. Adrian's gun lowered. Claire's breath shook. Julian laughed. Look at that. The Saint of Ashes kneels for the unwanted bride. Adrian's eyes did not leave Claire. So you hurt. Julian pressed the blade harder. I said put it down. Adrian placed the gun on the marble floor. Then he lowered himself to one knee. Gasps echoed from the remaining men. Claire stared at him. The most feared Mafia boss in the city kneeling in a church soaked with rain and gun smoke, not from weakness, but because her life mattered more than his pride. Julian's voice sharpened. Pathetic, Adrian's gaze remained on Claire. No, he said calmly. Devoted, Julian's face twisted with disgust. That was his mistake. For half a second. The knife loosened. Claire drove her elbow back into his ribs as hard as she could. Adrian moved. One shot. Julian screamed and dropped the knife. Adrian crossed the space between them before Julian hit the floor. He caught Claire, pulled her behind him, and stood between her and the world with blood running down his side, beneath the reopened bandage. Julian writhed on the marble, clutching his shoulder. Adrian pointed the gun at his head. Claire grabbed Adrian's arm. Dante, his chest rose and fell. Claire, Dante killed him for me. He deserves worse. I know. Adrian's eyes were black with violence. Claire stepped closer, trembling but steady. If you love me, don't make his death the beginning of us. The word love changed him. Not softly, painfully, like something locked inside him had finally been named. Adrian lowered the gun. Police sirens wailed outside. Julian was arrested, screaming Claire's name. The live feed had caught everything. Not just Julian's confession, not just the attack, but Claire standing in the church, refusing to be defined by the man who tried to destroy her. By morning, the world knew the truth. By afternoon, Claire Bennett was no longer the abandoned bride everyone mocked. She was the woman who exposed a criminal laundering ring. The woman who faced her runaway groom in the church, where he humiliated her. The woman the most feared man in Boston had knelt for. That last part became its own storm. Photos spread across every screen. Adrian Valenti on one knee. Claire in green, rain and shattered glass behind them. The headlines called it obsession. Scandal. Dangerous romance. Claire turned off her phone. She did not want headlines, she wanted quiet. Adrian gave it to her. For 2 weeks after the church, he did not push. He sent security, but discreetly. He had her apartment repaired. But only after Elise asked permission. He returned the wedding dress she had sold, not as a symbol of pain, but cleaned, restored, and folded in a white box with a note. You decide what becomes of it. Claire stared at the note for a long time. Then she called him. He answered on the first ring. Claire. Her name sounded different now. Not like possession. Like restraint barely surviving devotion. I want to see you, she said. Silence. Then where? The hotel ballroom. When Adrian arrived, the ballroom had been repaired. The windows replaced. The floor cleaned of glass. But Claire had changed it. Candles lined the walls. The old piano stood open. And in the center of the room, on a dress form, was her wedding gown. Not white anymore. Claire had dyed it deep emerald, the color of survival. Adrian stopped in the doorway. Claire stood beside it wearing a simple black dress, her hair loose, her hands nervous but steady. I didn't want to burn it, she said. I thought about it. A lot. Adrian walked in slowly. What changed your mind? I realized the dress didn't betray me. Julian did. Adrian's gaze moved over the gown. Then back to her. It's beautiful. For once, Claire said softly. I think so too. He looked at her then. Fully, carefully, with such controlled emotion that Claire felt it in her bones. You are, he said. Her breath caught. He did not add anything, did not soften it, did not explain. He simply let the truth stand. Claire's eyes filled. I'm still scared, she whispered. I know. I still don't know how to love someone like you. Adrian stopped a few feet away. There is no one like me. Despite the tears, she laughed. This laugh was different. Warm, real, astonished by its own existence. Adrian's face changed when he heard it, as if the sound had reached a place in him no one else had ever touched. Claire saw it. The moment he remembered the broken laugh at the altar. The moment he compared it to this one. The moment he understood she had survived. She stepped closer. Adrian. Yes, you can touch me now. For a man who commanded armies of criminals without blinking. He looked almost undone by the permission. He lifted his hand slowly and touched her face with the backs of his fingers. So gently it hurt. Claire closed her eyes. Not because she was afraid. Because for the first time in her life, being touched felt like being chosen, not claimed. Adrian leaned closer, then stopped just before their lips met, still giving her the final choice. Claire rose onto her toes and kissed him. The kiss was not soft for long. It carried everything they had survived. The church, the blood, the rain, the fear, the restraint. The nights he stayed outside her door. The moment he knelt with a gun on the floor. Because losing her mattered more than power. Adrian's arms closed around her carefully at first. Then with a shudder, as if devotion had finally broken through discipline. Claire held him back. Not desperately, not gratefully. Freely. When they pulled apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I know how to be gentle with the world, he said. Claire touched his jaw. I am not asking you to be gentle with the world. His eyes opened. She smiled through tears. Just honest with me. Adrian kissed her hand, a vow without witnesses. A month later, Claire reopened the non-profit under a new name, the Bennett House. A safe place for women whose lives had been shattered by men who counted on their silence. The first fundraiser was held in the restored ballroom of Adrian's hotel. No wedding decorations, no white roses, no pity. Just candlelight, black marble, emerald silk, and women laughing without fear. Claire stood at the balcony overlooking the harbor, wearing the emerald gown remade from her wedding dress. It fit her body without apology. It carried no shame now. Behind her, the ballroom quieted. She turned. Adrian Valenti had entered. Black suit, no tie, the same dangerous calm. The same eyes that had found her in a cathedral full of people, and seen strength where others saw humiliation. But this time he did not stand in the back row. He walked toward her in full view of everyone. Guests whispered. Cameras lifted. Claire's souled fear stirred. Then Adrian stopped before her and offered his hand, not a command, an invitation. Claire looked at the room, at the people watching, at the phones, at the world that had once turned her pain into entertainment. Then she smiled, and placed her hand in his. Adrian led her to the center of the ballroom. Music began, slow, dark, beautiful. Claire felt every eye on her, but she did not shrink. Adrian's hand rested at her waist with careful strength. His other held hers as if it was something sacred and dangerous. You're staring, she whispered. Yes. People are watching. Let them. Her lips curved. You like terrifying rooms, don't you? I like watching you stop being afraid of them. Claire's throat tightened. As they danced beneath the black crystal chandelier, rain began again outside, silvering the harbor windows. Adrian leaned close, his voice meant only for her. The first time I heard you laugh, I thought it was the sound of someone breaking. Claire looked up. His eyes held hers. Tonight, he said. It sounds like someone free. Claire felt the last piece of the altar fall away. Not forgotten, not erased. Transformed, she had been left, humiliated, framed, hunted. But she had not become the woman Julian tried to make her. She had become something far more dangerous. A woman who knew her worth. A woman who could stand beside a monster without becoming his victim. A woman who had learned that love was not being rescued from her own life. It was being seen clearly and still chosen. Outside, black SUVs waited in the rain. Inside, the city's most feared man held her like she was the only peace he had ever known. And when Claire Bennett laughed this time, no one dared mock the sound. Because Adrian Valenti smiled like a man who would burn the whole world down before letting anyone take it from her again. At 2:17 in the morning, Emily Carter stood barefoot on the cold marble floor of a penthouse bathroom, holding a bloody hotel towel in one hand and the secret that could get her killed in the other. Outside, the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seattle was drowning beneath winter rain. The city lights blurred into gold and silver streaks against the glass. Beautiful from a distance, lonely up close. Inside the penthouse, no one was breathing normally. 3 security chiefs stood near the private bar.